Hi, I'm Holly, and with my sister Heather, you're listening to Haunted Family Podcast, a podcast about the paranormal, unsolved mysteries, and even some true crime. It's been a while.
It has. We hope that in this new decade, we get back into the swing of recording weekly.
I mean, I cannot, I'm not even going to try to justify it, because I had 2 weeks off.
But it was all Holly's fault.
We're going to be better. We're coming up with when we first started this forever ago, we just willy-nilly picked topics and it didn't go well for us. And then we started coming up with a schedule and this is what our topics are going to be. And we did so much better. And then in the last year, we've gotten back to just not picking a topic, and that clearly does not work for us. So we are coming up with a new, not schedule, but we're coming up with a new list of topics and dates. And I guess that is a schedule. So we'll be better. So if you're listening to this and there's a topic that you really, 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 really want to listen to, send us an email, hauntedfamilypodcast@gmail.com, and we'll add it to our list.
Like, it's so serious that I have purchased a day planner. Well, let's get down to the topic at hand. This was actually supposed to be our Christmas episode, but then Christmas happened.
Yeah.
And when you have an Etsy shop, Christmas is busy.
Just automatically, we're not recording in December. Like, December needs to just be nothing.
Our vacation?
Well, I mean, vacation from recording, because, I mean, when we first started this, our shops were not successful. I mean, you know, like we could do it all. But in the last couple of years, we've really had super busy shops. And it's hard to keep up with that. And, you know, in my case, shuttling Emmy to swimming. And, it's hard to do anything in December. So you're hearing it here. Next December.
Don't expect to hear from us. Well, I mean, check out our YouTube, because I'll still record a little bit for YouTube in December. And check us out on Instagram, because we're still really funny in December on Instagram.
On Instagram. Okay. So we are talking about the Lawson family murder. And I was just thinking, like, it seems like when we do record a Christmas episode, it's always about a Christmas murder. And man, how often are people getting murdered on Christmas?
I don't know, but like, that seems to be our thing.
Sheesh. Okay. So in 1929, you've got Charlie Lawson, who is 43. His 37-year-old wife, Fanny, and their children, Arthur, 16, Marie, 17, Carrie, 12, Maybelle, 7, James, 4, Raymond, 2, and Mary Lou, 4 months. So, I don't know a date, but a little while before Christmas, I
think I read about 2 weeks.
They go into town and they all get a new outfit and they get a family portrait taken. Now, all accounts are like, this is so crazy for a family to do this. You know, they're, I was going to say middle-aged, but that's not it. They're totally blanking. Anyway, but Charlie had just bought his farm. So, right, so it's not like they were poor. They, you know, I mean, he owned his own business. He was self-employed.
He was a tobacco farmer. And we grew up in a tobacco farming area. You sell in the late fall, late September, October-ish. And then you have money.
That's your money for the year, but people always, seem to go a little crazy in the fall.
Yeah. And I don't know about in their area, but in our area, even when we was growing up, you would take out, our parents were not tobacco farmers, but we had friends who were tobacco farmers. You'd take your family out and, you'd buy some new clothes and, you'd live large for a little bit.
Imagine tax time.
And then you settle back down because reality, you got to make this money last.
Tax time, if tax time lasted you all year. And you didn't have to pay like I do. So, I don't find it completely odd that he took his family out. I mean, and it was Christmas, so I mean, it might have been the new outfits were their Christmas presents.
Exactly. What was it? Laura Lynn talked about in, I think, Coal Miner's Daughter. That once a year they would get a new pair of shoes and a new dress from the store.
Fall, they would get a new pair of shoes and a dress from either Sears or Montgomery Ward, but like one of those catalogs. And it was a big deal.
Yeah. That's what country families did.
So,
especially farming families where you only would really get your money would come in sort of all at once.
Okay, so...
Yeah. So I know a lot of people find the picture suspicious, but the new clothes in the picture suspicious. But I look at it as this was a family. This was a mom and dad who realized that their oldest children were of an age where they were going to be leaving the house soon.
Yeah, and I will attest to once that child leaves the house, you can hardly ever get them back home for a picture. Like, I have had our fall picture clothes ready and waiting on Abby to come back and take pictures with us since Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Fall.
Since fall. We might get it by spring.
But Marie was 17 and Arthur was 16. They were going to be leaving the house and starting their own family soon.
This is the 20s. That's what people did that young.
Yeah. So I'm not shocked by this.
No, and I mean, like
to me, this doesn't raise red flags.
The reports are they weren't wealthy. Well, no, I mean, I'm sure that they weren't super wealthy, but as a one-time splurge, that wasn't a red flag to me. However, we wouldn't call this a Lawson family murder if events didn't happen. So, yes. Christmas Day, one of the
Marie wakes up early
and
bakes a cake,
a raisin cake, and Carrie and Maybelle were going to their uncle's house. The dad, Charlie, sends Arthur off to the store to buy shells because they have a tradition of going hunting on Christmas Day.
And actually, I know a lot of families who do that. That is also a very common country family tradition of on big holidays, Thanksgiving or Christmas or something, the men go out and hunt.
I do not understand it, but whatever.
I don't either, but hey, that's their tradition. You rock it.
So the dad waits until Carrie and Maybelle go to the tobacco barn, and he shoots them with a shotgun.
And then, to make sure that the job is done, he bludgeons them to death.
And then he puts the bodies in the tobacco barn with their arms crossed like they're at a funeral home, and puts their head on a rock as a pillow. Okay, after that, he goes to the house.
Now, no one in the house is alarmed by the shots because this is the country.
Day shooting. Apparently, everybody did it, not just this family.
Well, I mean, like, I live out in the country. I hear gunshots, and I'm just like, okay.
Well, I live in the city, and if I heard gunshots, I would be paranoid.
Yeah, random gunshots is an almost everyday occurrence where I live, because I live out in the country. I live, surrounded by woods. It happens.
So he goes to the house and he shoots Fanny, who is sitting on the porch. And as soon as the gun goes off, Marie is inside and she starts screaming. James and Raymond, the two youngest sons, they start to hide. They're freaked out.
Yeah. They're 4 and 2, if you don't remember that from our introduction
right.
of the family.
So, he kills Marie. He hunts the little boys down and he kills them. And then he goes to the baby, who was just 4 months old, and he bludgeons Mary Lou to death. And everybody is found resting on a pillow. And then he goes to the woods. And it's about this time, though, that people are coming to the house to visit,
because it's a whole lot of shots close to the house.
And that's when people start finding the bodies. They don't see Charlie. He has gone to the woods and he's pacing around a tree, and he does that for a while there's people like swarming the house.
Yeah, some reports say that he actually paced in the woods for several hours before he finally shot himself.
Once the people at the house heard the gunshot, they knew what had happened, and they went and they found him dead. And there's people.
Yeah, he posed every member of the family in the exact same way.
People assume, not really assume, but people speculate that he sent Arthur, who was 16, off to the store so that he wouldn't be there to stop what was about to happen. Because if you look at that family picture, Arthur's actually taller and bigger than his dad. So he would have had an advantage of possibly, if not stopping him from killing.
Honestly, at first glance, when I first saw the picture, I thought that Arthur was the dad. And it wasn't until I actually read the description that I realized that was the son. So, absolutely, I think that if Arthur had been there, he might have maybe not prevented all of the deaths,
but at least some.
But he could have stopped it. Yeah.
There was rumors about why it happened, and honestly, nothing.
Small towns like to talk.
Nothing has ever come from those rumors. So, it's been said that he was actually having an incestuous relationship with Marie, and that she was pregnant, and so he killed everybody. But that rumor didn't even start until they started doing tours of the house. Yeah, I mean, they didn't even do an autopsy.
That seems that just seems it seems gossipy, and like how catty girls talk.
Right. Somebody else suggested that Charlie had witnessed organized crime and had been found out, and the family was murdered because of it. But I mean, again, he was pacing around the tree and killed himself. So,
well, no, it could have been that he felt overwhelming guilt because he got his family into that situation. I don't see much opportunity for a small town tobacco farmer sharecropper, because what he was before he was able to buy his own farm, to witness organized crime to a point where they would want to eliminate his whole family. That just seems a little bit of reaching for, another theory was, apparently some months before this happened, Charlie sustained a head injury. And as we know from previous episodes we have done with Aaron Hernandez and, other cases, traumatic brain injury, it can alter you in ways that
Charles Manson
is not good.
Gacy. I guess the list could go on. Bundy.
I really cannot. We don't have enough time for me to list all of the people who they suspect head injuries in contributing to their,
murderous
rampages.
Charlie did have a autopsy, and the autopsy didn't show anything abnormal about his brain.
His autopsy was the analysis of his brain was done at Johns Hopkins, so it was not like just a regular state medical examiner or a regular town doctor. This was, Johns Hopkins. But at this point in time, in the late 1920s, did they have the resources and the knowledge to really be able to know what is truly abnormal?
I don't know.
To the point where it's going to cause violent outbursts.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to say
going to get hate
not.
mail on this. I am not saying that head injuries is an excuse for murder. It's not. But I'm saying head injuries could alter you in ways that are not good.
Right. But not all head injuries. I mean, somebody can get repeated concussions and be fine, and then another brain can get multiple concussions and not be. Our brains are very weird. Like, I got into an argument one time, not really an argument, but I mentioned to somebody one time that we don't even use like all of our brain. Like, we just use a tiny fraction of our brain. And I'm not saying that somebody is stupid if they don't, use other parts of their brains. But that's the way she took it, is that we're actually talking about ghosts and stuff. And I said that, and she took offense because she said she'd never seen anything like that. And I said, well, maybe you've not seen that because you're not using that part of your brain. But she took it to mean that I was saying she was stupid, which is not what I was saying. Our brains are just vast, and we don't use them all. So,
no, I have a couple friends who have had traumatic brain injuries caused by a couple different types of incidents, and it's not made either of them violent, but you can tell the difference between them before traumatic brain injury and after traumatic brain injury. It's not good. Our brains are way more delicate than we really think.
Okay, so the murders happened. Everybody was buried in their new clothes, which is terribly sad to me.
In very, very beautiful white caskets. It's a very... You can look at pictures of the funeral online. There was a huge crowd.
Yeah, because it rocked the town, and their friends came, but then there were also people who were just wanting to gawk at the scene that was outside the gates, and that's terribly tacky.
Yeah, I mean, that town today only has about 830 people in it. So I can imagine that in,
29.
The 1920s, it was probably a lot less.
Yeah. Okay, so Charlie's brother, Marion, realized that Arthur was going to need income. If he was going to be able to keep the farm, pay the bills, he needed a means to do that. And so he turned the house into a tourist attraction.
I wonder if this is like one of the first times that this had been done.
I don't know, but I mean, it was kind of
like
ingenious.
A murder scene. I mean, because I could see that happening now.
Yeah.
Like Grizzly Crime happened, and then that weird dude from Ghost Adventures sweep in, and like, oh, it's haunted. I'm going to open it up as a new museum. Fans of his is going to write me hate mail now, but I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, people were interested in true crime long before us.
This current like podcast craze that's going on right now, where everyone is hopping into the true crime bandwagon. I don't know that
I would really say that it's a true crime bandwagon. I would say that people have always been interested in true crime. I mean, hell, we used to watch Unsolved Mysteries and what was that other show? Like America's Most Wanted. We used to watch those all the time. And
yeah. And we've been John Douglas fans since he wrote his first book. Well, actually, hold on. We've been John Douglas fans since he was still an active FBI agent and doing interviews on CNN. And I would sit there like a fangirl going, oh my God, he is so fascinating. And my parents would be like, this is not appropriate for a kid in grade school.
I know. But when you were in middle school, I took you to see him and it was great.
He's amazing.
But, I mean, so it's not that it's a boom or that it's a craze that's just happening. It's just people who provide TV and other news sources are just now realizing that it's a commodity that people want. I think. I mean, and I think with podcasts, people are finally not feeling weird about their fascination. So, I mean, like, we were hesitant because, what will people think if we have a true crime podcast? And then we got to the point that we were like, who cares? We're interested in it.
Well, that and podcasts are so accessible. Anybody can get a mic off Amazon, plug it in, and
clearly,
record.
If you listen to us, you do not care about quality. Yeah, Truth. I mean, we try, but I mean, it's not, you're not listening to Serial here. You're listening to two people who don't get paid, talking about stuff that they're interested in. And if we can do it, literally everybody can do it. So.
And if you wasn't listening to us, we would just be two sisters screaming at each other about true crime over Skype.
That literally would happen.
So, like, I know that I want to be cremated, but, like, if something happens and you decide not to, can you bury me in a casket that looks like the Lawson family casket? Because those are swank.
One, if you bury me.
Okay.
Anyway, so they turned the house into a museum, and it was 25 cents a tour.
And, okay, so everybody was saying, so many articles I read, it's like wealthy farmer. You can pull up a picture of this house.
It was just a little farmhouse.
I
honestly don't know how 7 kids were living in that house.
Even by, poor Eastern Kentucky standards, this would not be considered a nicer farmhouse.
Right.
This would be a poor person's
farm. We
farm.
Just said that
I think he had like
some money because he just bought his own farm.
He spent the money on the land. I think he had like 200 acres.
I see that.
Yeah. The house was not great, but it was livable.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't look like it was like super fallen in or anything.
No.
So you've got these people coming to do tours, and the house looks exactly like it did when the murder happened, complete down to the cake on the table. Now, people would come in, literally take a coal shovel and scoop blood from the crime scene into a jar. I read
they would pick raisins out of the cake that Marie made to take home as a souvenir.
Yeah. And like it got to the point that they put the cake under a glass dish, and it was stayed preserved for years, and that was weird. But yeah, like people would just take blood, and the tree that Charlie killed himself at, like all the leaves and stuff were taken off of it.
I'm really, though, not surprised by any of this. I mean, when Bonnie and Clyde were killed, people took souvenirs from them, including a finger.
Yeah.
People can be creepy.
That's true. That's very true. There was somebody in my research that kept a jar of, like, their family kept a jar of the blood that they scooped up for like well, I mean, I guess like they still had it like present day. It was just ew. Like, would you have just like a jar of blood on a shelf?
No.
Oh, I wouldn't.
No. I mean, I pick up some strange things at estate sales, but I think that'd be one of those things that I might leave behind.
Yeah. So in January of 1930, so like a month after the murder, Arthur had some of the stuff auctioned off, and the shotgun and anything closely related to the crime went fast and for a good price. Arthur took the cake and a few other memorabilia and went on a tent show exhibition to show it off. Very, very odd, I think. There was a song written about the murders, and it was said that in life, when Arthur got really down, he would drink and just listen to that song. That was really sad, I think.
I bet it must have been so hard for Arthur moving on.
Yeah, I always say that about every crime scene where there's a lone survivor and they survived because they were somewhere else. So tragic. Like, I couldn't even imagine trying to move on with my life knowing what had happened and why I wasn't there.
And then to think, and he had to have thought this, that his dad sent him away for a reason. I'm honestly surprised that he didn't end up killing himself.
Honestly, I am too, but I'm glad he didn't.
Survivor's guilt is a real thing, and it so tragically often leads to suicide. And I'm glad that he was able to somehow move on. Well, at least live on. Because this is just, this would have been a hard thing to deal with.
Yeah.
To leave for town one morning, and when you come home, you literally have nobody. And your home isn't even really your home anymore.
Right, and the only way you can make money is by exploiting.
Yeah, exploiting what happened to your family.
I do not blame him at all. You do what you got to do to survive. Exactly. I judge no one. Like,
me and Holly often joke that if something happens to one of us, tragically, that the other one's going to do a podcast about it.
Well, I think that our listeners would expect that.
You do what you got to do.
That'll be the episode we actually get money from.
Actually, I never followed this person, but I followed her mom on Instagram because her mom has, a farm page and all this. But like one of those YouTube mommy bloggers, like right around Christmas, it might have been Christmas Day, her son She went to check on him. She laid him down for a nap, and he wasn't breathing.
Oh, no.
Well, he ended up dying at the hospital. I'm assuming SIDS. They never really said. But, like, the internet was so horrible about her making posts and how everything looked so staged and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, one, people on the internet could be downright horrible and disgusting. And two, everyone deals with tragedy in their own way. And it's not really for any of us to judge how other people process things.
Right. I know you know this. Our listeners do not know this. I used to work for hospice. And I have seen lots of people die. And I have been there when they have died. And I have held family members' hands when they died. And I have walked in right after they died and comforted families. And I'm going to tell you that I've never seen two families react the same way. And these are people who are expecting it. You know, nobody goes on hospice honestly thinking that you're going to be the one to get discharged alive. I mean, it
does happen.
Not often, but I was always happy when it happened. And in order for that to happen, if you don't know anything about hospices, you get reevaluated every 6 months. And if in that 6 months you've actually gotten better, you get discharged alive. You can always come back to hospice if you start to decline again. But yeah, you get reevaluated. So I was always happy when they got discharged alive because I didn't want to see anybody die. But everybody's family took it different. And there was no right or wrong. It's just, that's how you personally deal with it. I am one of those people that when I am nervous or upset, I will literally make jokes about anything. And that makes people uncomfortable sometimes. But that's just me. That's just how I am. It doesn't mean that I've murdered anybody and that I've staged it or anything. It just means that's how I deal with sadness, is I try to make everybody around me laugh.
So, I don't know. Every time we deal with things like this, I always think about, and it's like we go back to our episode on Lizzie Borden. And they're like, well, she acted weird after the death. Well, I mean, her stepmom and her dad was just murdered.
Right.
You're going to have to give the girl some leeway.
New decade, new bunch of stupid criminals.
Holly, you remember that time you won the lottery?
I do. It was really great. I had this dream that I won the lottery, and so the next day I woke up and I played the lottery and I won like $100. I mean, I'm not retiring on it or anything, and actually I spent it all in one day. But it was nice to have, free $100 or $150. It was something like, it was not more than $200.
So, 2 men in Mississippi were arrested, and this was not recent. This was like a week ago. So, stupid criminal a week ago. They tried to cash a lottery ticket.
Okay.
The lottery ticket said they'd won $100,000. So quite a bit more than you won. There was a problem, though. They'd glued the winning numbers on the ticket.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
I mean, nice try, guys.
Listen, sometimes you just need $100,000.
I could use $100,000 like right now. I mean, I wouldn't say no if somebody gave it to me.
So, Otis Latham, 47, and Russell Sparks, 48, of Columbus, Mississippi. I had to make sure that was still in Mississippi because there's a Columbus in Ohio. I'm sure all of our listeners know that, though.
Yeah, I started to say we've got friends who live there, but I can't see them gluing the numbers on a lottery ticket.
No. I don't think they'd be that smart. If they listen to this episode, they'll be so mad at me. No, they were detained by officers of the Flowood Police Department after officials from the Mississippi Lottery said that the pair came into headquarters. So that's not even trying to go to the gas station. They went to the lottery headquarters and tried to pass the scratch off as a winner.
That's really stupid.
No, the lottery officials said they could tell just from looking at it that it was a fake, but they still went ahead and scanned the front and the back and, all that. And, of course, it was a fake. And
I guess they didn't think that far ahead that there's a scan bar on it.
No, probably not. So their little dabble into forgery is going to possibly get them into a lot of trouble. They are charged with conspiracy to commit a felony, uttering a counterfeit instrument over $1,000. And Latham is facing an additional charge for providing a false ID.
Boys, not good.
I bet he faked that one too.
Probably. I wonder what it looked like.
Trying to pass a fake lottery ticket will actually get you between 1 and 20 years in prison and a $50,000 fine.
Gosh. That's crazy. Okay, people, if you're still with us, do not forge a lottery ticket. It's not worth it.
And don't murder your whole family.
Don't murder anybody. Like, I believe that that's a rule to live by. Like, don't falsify the lottery and don't murder anyone.
What if the person needs murdering?
Probably still shouldn't murder.
Like, I had a dream last night that somebody attacked Emmy, and I killed him.
I feel like in that situation it's justifiable, but if we can avoid killing people.
Now, hold on. Before anybody oh my gosh, she's crazy. I fell asleep reading the Zodiac book. So, literally I just read about him stabbing the people on the little beach area, and then I fell asleep. So that was in my mind when I fell asleep. So it's not that I'm crazy psycho. It's that I had the Zodiac in my head.
I got a message from her early this morning when I woke up about the Zodiac. It's like, good morning. How did the Zodiac not get caught? He was very sloppy.
He was! Dude had to have been connected because he was sloppy.
So yes, people, sometime this year, there will be a Zodiac episode. So if that's what you were going to send us an email about, already in the works.
Yes, because I keep falling asleep reading about the Zodiac and then having weird dreams about killing people. And I'm not going to plan on killing anybody because, ew. But
you are not Joe Goldberg or
no,
Will Bettelheim.
I don't want to have to try to wash blood out of my clothes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do anyway because, I have a farm, so things happen. The other day I was holding a baby goat seconds after it was born, so I had some goo on me still, and I had to wash those clothes and they were icky, but yeah, I have a farm, and sometimes I have baby goats, and they're really cute.
Okay, so thanks for listening. We are glad that you are still around and that you've not given up on us.
And we will try to promise to be back next week.
We will be back next week. And visit my Etsy shop, Cat Hair Glitter. That would help me immensely. And visit our YouTube channel, which is Haunted Family Podcast, because Heather puts new stuff up all the time. So that's what we've got going on, and we'll see you next week with another exciting episode. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.